Welcome to the 129th season of the Canadian Club Toronto, Canada's podium. For over a century, this stage has united visionaries and leaders from politics, business, community, and the arts to share insights on the most pressing issues of our time. And with Canada in a pivotal moment, it's more important than ever that we come together.
We've been having important discussions and debates around this podium in this country for well over a century. I call this a historic podium of record.
Our club's always been a forum for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to command attention to the issues of our time.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Good afternoon once again, members and guests, and a warm welcome to those joining us online. My name is Shazan Chu, President of Canadian Club Toronto, and your host for today's special event. Before I begin, let's go Jays. In 2017, Victor Dodig stood at this very podium and said, "Disruption well managed and well understood actually creates opportunities." 8 years later, we can say with confidence that he lived that philosophy. During his tenure as President and CEO of CIBC, Victor has led one of the most transformative decades in the bank's 157-year history, driving digital innovation, redefining culture, and placing purpose at the heart of performance. He reminds us that we're not a technology company, we're a bank. But we're a bank that's thinking about how to change ourselves to deal with modern times and not lose our competitive edge. That clarity of vision, paired with humanity, defined his leadership. And we're honored to hear from him today in conversation with Brent Belzberg, Executive Chairman, TorQuest, and Board Director at CIBC. Before we begin today's conversation, let me take a moment to recognize the generous support of our sponsors. Today's event is proudly presented by PwC Canada. Thank you for making this special event possible. Our season sponsor is the Canadian Bankers Association, and Air Canada is our official airline sponsor. We also thank Canada's Forest Trust for helping us reduce our carbon footprint by planting a smart forest in our honor. We're pleased to welcome student guests from the Rotman School of Management and Toronto Metropolitan University. The dais Future Leaders in Finance and Innovation. As always, we invite you to visit canadianclub.org for upcoming events and on-demand programming. And of course, please share your reflections on social media. It's one of the ways we extend the dialogue beyond these walls. If you have questions for Victor and Brent, please use the Q&A cards on your table. For our virtual audience, click the Submit a Question button that's on your screen. And now, to formally introduce our distinguished guests, please join me in welcoming Edgar Barbosa from PwC Canada, today's presenting sponsor, to our podium.
Good afternoon, everyone, and also those joining us by video. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest and a critical leader in Canadian banking and a passionate advocate for inclusive growth, Victor G. Dodig, President and CEO of the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, CIBC. Victor's journey is one of vision, purpose, and resilience. He is known for valuing hard work, respect, and inclusion, and for his very strong ties to his Croatian community. Victor holds a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Toronto St. Michael's College and an MBA from Harvard Business School, where he was recognized as a Baker Scholar. He also earned a diploma from the Institut d'études politiques in Paris, reflecting his global perspective. Professionally, Victor spent some time and held leadership roles at McKinsey & Company, Merrill Lynch, and UBS prior to joining CIBC, where he held the roles of Executive Vice President of Retail Distribution and Senior Executive Vice President and Wealth Management, excuse me, prior to becoming CEO in 2014. However, I also learned that Victor started his career officially at CIBC at a retail branch as a teller, which is amazing. Amazing story for full conclusion. Under his leadership, CIBC has transformed into a relationship-oriented bank with a North American growth platform and a reputation for being a digital innovator. Some notable achievements include the acquisition of Private Corp in the US, the acquisition of the Costco Canadian credit card business, and also the launch of Simply Financial, all of which help expand CIBC's reach and diversity of its client base. Victor is also known for his commitment to community and social impact. He serves as chair of CIBC's Inclusion Leadership Council and has held initiatives such as the Black North Initiative and Catalyst Canada to promote diversity and gender inclusion. He is the 2024 chair of the United Way campaign in Greater Toronto and is also a very strong advocate for Canada and the global stage. Victor is also a trustee of the Brookings Institution, a board member at TELUS Corporation, and the past chair of the Business Council of Canada. He was also the president of the 2022 International Monetary Conference. Victor's story is a testament to the power of purpose-driven leadership. He is known for engaging his clients at a human level, fostering enduring relationships, and shaping outcomes for society, as was clearly evidenced during his last earnings calls as CEO of CIBC, where the analyst community just reached out with an outpour of support and gratitude for his tenure as CEO of CIBC. As he prepares to retire as CEO from CIBC on October 31st, which is Friday, his legacy has built a very strong foundation that I'm sure Harry and the rest of the leadership team at CIBC will use to leverage and accelerate this amazing growth that's experienced over the last decade. Also joining Victor, we have another distinguished guest, and that is a conversation with Brent Belzberg, CM, founder and senior executive chairman of TorQuest. He is a member of the advisory committee at the University of Toronto and a past chair of the Sinai Health System. Brent has also served on CIBC's board of directors, and we're thrilled to have him guide the conversation with Victor today. Please join me in welcoming Victor and Brent to the stage today.
He's blinded by the light, huh?
Yes, for sure. He's probably surprised I could make it up the stairs. But thanks, Edgar, for doing this. We really appreciate it. Everybody in this room who's a CIBC shareholder should give one hand of applause to Victor before we all start for what's happened to the shares over the last month. So
that's a team effort, but I'll say that time and time again.
He does.
Banking's a team sport. The CIBC team is formidable. I've been privileged to be the captain, and the new captain's going to carry it forward, and Harry's right here. Stand up for a second. I'm not going to bring you up, Harry. Just stand up, just so everybody can see you. Okay, there you go.
So Friday's your last day.
Last day at CIBC
That is it.
as the CEO.
No, you
My goodness.
can say that to me, not to you. But so you're retiring at a time that the bank's performing as well as it ever has. Top tier shareholder returns, strong, consistent financial performance. Take us back to your first day at CIBC, and I mean your first day, when you were a part-timer. What was it like for you as a kid coming into CIBC?
So some of you heard this story, so forgive me if I have to share it once more with you, but I did start as a CSR, a customer service representative at Bloor and Fieldgate in Mississauga in April of 1985. I'm a pack rat. I have all my pay stubs from my kid, and my drawer in my bedroom where I used to sleep at my mom's house. And my first pay stub at CIBC was received at the end of April of 1985. So my last one will be now, I guess next week.
Amazing.
End of this year. Anyway, it was a great experience. It was a time where Olivetti computers came into the banking center. It was the first time we had dot matrix printers coming into the banking center. People on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays, when you work Thursday and Friday nights and Saturdays, would line up with their checks because they needed to deposit them to get paid. There was no direct deposit, few ATMs, no e-deposit. It was a sea of Canadian humanity from people from all walks of life that came from all over the world, largely speaking, because it was an immigrant community. People would come with, I remember one family came in with 5 frozen pizza checks because they're a Sikh family. It was $140 a check, and they saved. They probably live in Brampton today. They're living well, and they got another generation, but that's what I saw firsthand at that time. Now, banking changes, right? Today, that banking center is English as a second language office. There's still the drawer for the night deposits. But it just shows you, I drove by it recently because it's near my mom's place in Mississauga. It just shows you how things do change. But what doesn't change in our business is the importance of clients, the importance of how we can serve them and understanding what their ambitions are, because that's why we get out of bed each and every day as the CIBC team.
You know, the thing we all love about you, everybody in this room, and the reason it's sold out so easily is your empathy. And you have it right from the bottom of your feet to where you are today. You're the most empathetic human being that any of us will ever meet. And you had Croatian parents, they were immigrants, were struggled for everything that they did in their lives, and gave both you and your brother an amazing, just amazing education, and they developed you into who you are today. Tell us about your childhood experience. Tell us about your parents. Tell us about your mom and your relationship with her and how it made such a
She's like
difference.
Omnipresent.
Yep.
Sometimes too much, but anyway.
We were
always meddling in our business, telling us what to do. So, I will say that as the son of immigrant parents, and my father arrived as a refugee, and I know many of you heard this before, there is something special about that, and there's something challenging about that, right? You kind of grow up in a household where no one really speaks English very well. I remember coming home for my grade 3 spelling test, and my mother would open the spelling book, and she would go through the list. I'd memorize the list. I'd memorize how things got spelled, and she'd say, "That's right," but I'd pronounce them the wrong way. So you went through this until people fixed things. In fact, this is really weird. I got married at the age of 30, and my wife's from Boston, and she's a dual citizen, and we've been married for 30 years. And I said, "Well, put it on the corn table." She goes, "Corn table?" I said, "The corn table. The corner table." For me, it was the corn table in the living room until the age of 30. Weird stuff, right? But that's what you kind of grow up with. At the same time, you learn the school of hard knocks. You don't ever enter a restaurant until you're like into your teen years, because the whole idea was save money, save money. I mean, if everyone lived like my parents did, the entire hospitality industry would collapse. right? But it was all about saving. And even today, as immigrants come in, it's hard. I think it's always been hard because you're always on the outside trying to work yourself into the inside. Yeah. And that, I think, has probably been the biggest benefit of all, because these hurdles appear, and they appear to the new generation of immigrants. They appear for different reasons. People on the inside want to say, you know what? My father was called a WAP because WAP meant without papers. It didn't mean you're Italian. It means you didn't speak well, and you were considered to be without papers, even though you had papers. But that stuff makes you more resilient. And for that reason, I'm proud about obviously my parents and the upbringing that I've had. At the same time, they always said, this is our country. I'm proud of my Croatian heritage. Everybody knows that. It comes out of my mouth once a week. But Canada is my country. I love this country, as I know all of you do. Anybody who comes to a Canadian Club lunch loves this country. It's no longer an experiment. It's a real thing. And when people push back and say, not so sure you're going to exist in 20 years, we have to have very clear answers as to why we should exist. The most endowed country in natural resources, one of the most educated populations, and one of the most connected populations in the world that have come here to call Canada home.
Yeah, and yeah, for those of us who have known you so long, most of the people in this room would just see how elegant you are and what an elegant person you are. But it's all learned behavior. It's all stuff that you learned through your life, and you grew through your life from your wonderful parents, and the empathy was there from the beginning, but the elegance you built on your own. And I remember, as a member of the search committee, the first time that you came and presented to the board, and it was hard for you. We had some conversations before you presented to the board quietly, and the bank was in a very tough place. And so why don't you tell everyone, you jumped layers above people above you to get the job, and everyone on the board knew you were the only person to get that job. And tell us what was going through your mind that day.
What was going through my mind is, holy shit, if I get this job, how am I going to do it? You know, it's because you kind of put all these ideas together. I remember my discussions with Brent. He goes, just don't say it that way. Say it this way. Okay, I get it. My colleague Harry's gone through the same thing this past year. I mean, I think you all kind of go in with, you know, great hope, great aspiration, what you think is a great strategy, and then when you hear the word yes, you say to yourself, okay, now we got to pull it together. And what I came to appreciate quite quickly was, I remember the 15th of September in 2014, remember, Harry, we kind of sat around the table with the entire team, and the entire team came together. We started wearing our pins as the entire team. We said we're going to have one colored logo. We're going to work together collaboratively to serve our clients. We're going to turn the bank to the outside. And I got to tell you, the energy of the team, my team, our team, transformed me. The energy of the board lining up behind us and beside us to make things come to life. And then slowly but surely you have wins. I mean, in an 11-year period, it's not a winning quarter every quarter. Some of them are like setbacks. But I think that's what gives you the resilience to go forward if you truly believe in what you're building. And I think we all truly believed in what we're building, and I think that the best is yet to come.
Yeah, well, this is a man who, when the board wanted to give him bonuses, he wanted to give it to his peers and not to him. This is a man who, whenever someone tells how well he's doing, he tells you it's the team, just like you've heard it today. And I remember that talking to you after 2 or 3 months that you started, and you spent your time going and meeting every customer and meeting every employee in the bank. You remembered all their names, you knew all their families. You didn't really have somebody, although I tried to work with you to get someone, who would brief you before you went there. You just went, and you got to know anyone, and you made up your mind that the first thing you had to do was change the culture of the bank. And whereas anybody else who had gone to Harvard Business School would have first looked at the numbers, second, looked at the return on equity, third, looked where they could cut costs to increase those things, and that's not what you did. You took 2 years getting to know every human being and helping to build the culture, and look at the results today. So give some lessons to the people here about how you took a completely different path than most people you see, or even your peers today you see very quickly after they come in, acquisitions, cutting costs, cutting people, not you. That's not what you did.
Right. Well, I mean, I did a little bit of that too, but I think you have to do some of that. I mean, the market is the market. And the market's unrelenting, unforgiving, and rewarding all at the same time. But I'm a big believer that everybody has to roll out of bed believing in what they want to do each and every day. We have a purpose, a very clearly defined purpose at CIBC. We look for leadership that lives and breathes the social fabric. I think in banking, and as much as your comments around bonuses, I mean, we're well paid. My mother would say after church, they say you paid too much. I said, Mom, I said, do not respond, okay? Do not respond. Judge me by what I do and how we give back. Don't judge us just on that. But it's funny, right? Because people, the most read statement in a bank is the proxy statement. That's just the way life is. But don't ever forget the people that actually help us run the bank, that deal with our clients day in and day out. Those are the folks in our banking centers. Those are the folks that are protecting the bank at night in our cybercrime group. Those are the folks that are running operations and processing transactions overnight. Like this morning, we just launched a new app into our US bank. That didn't launch because we all went home and we were hoping and praying that things would go okay. People were working around the clock, testing and making sure that there were no bugs as it went live with our clients. And never to lose sight of our people. The people at the very front lines who depend on the decisions that we make to make their livelihoods better and our clients' livelihoods better. That is super important. And I know you've seen all the movies around how aggressive you can be in finance, how aggressive you can be in banking, whether it's the Wolf of Wall Street and what it looked like back then to how rough bankers can be. A healthy bank, a well-run bank, makes for a healthy Canada. And CIBC's focus on the health and well-being of our team and our clients and the numbers have resulted in what we have today, and a bank that has enduring value to make sure that under Harry's leadership and the team's leadership, it goes even further to reassert our strength, but also the culture that we have as a bank.
So
super important.
When you first came in, your bank was almost all Canadian. Mm-hmm. Lots of people were criticizing you for that at that time, not for you because you just started. How much pressure did you feel to diversify away? Why did you choose the acquisition you did? How do you feel about it today? Why didn't you do more that others had done? It became a focus for you, and how do you feel about it?
Well, I feel good about where we're at today, and I feel good about the road that lies ahead. Look, the lesson that we have is not unlike the lesson that our own country is experiencing. When you depend on one market or one segment overwhelmingly, it is likely at some point in time to create problems, right? So our goal was to diversify beyond Canada. We had 2% of our earnings were coming from the United States 11, 12 years ago, and now it's about 20%. And that's a combination of acquisition and organic growth.
Yep.
We've got very strong organic growth in our capital markets business. We've got a good wealth business, a commercial bank, and I think there's more room to grow there. We got to be smart about how we do it, just given the geopolitical environment that we're all living in. But our goal is really to serve our clients. Can we serve our Canadian clients who are investing in the United States? And one thing that that our American friends should know more of is that the FDI coming from Canadian funds, Canadian pension plans, Canadian investors in the United States, far overwhelms what's coming here. That is a fact that needs to be told time and time again to them, and they appreciate it once they understand the facts. But our goal as a bank is to be able to follow our clients. So we can't say, well, sorry, our relationship ends at the 49th parallel, we've got to follow you in there. And that holds true for the United States, and that holds true for our clients, our Canadian clients, when they invest abroad. In addition to investing, banking select segments of the US population and not being in retail banking because it's too competitive there. So I think we've done really, really well. I know Harry and the team want to continue to focus on improving our ROE there. That's really important, making sure that we're leveraging the investments that we've made so far to make our bank stronger. But given where we started and where we are today, I think we're in a good place, and it's going to be even better.
And you fought your board and had a vision.
Don't fight with the board.
You convinced your board that it was a worthwhile investment to change the location of your bank, move it south of Front Street, go ahead of everybody else down to that location, spend the money you needed to spend to change your branding, show a renewal of the bank in the way that you'd created it, different than others. Others are following you today. And how good a decision do you think that was, and why did you do it?
Yeah, you're referring to CIBC Square, which is our headquarters, which we moved Lakeshore and Bay, effectively, across from the former Air Canada Centre.
Yes, what's it called today? What's it called today?
I couldn't resist. Look, again, that was a decision we made as a team. It's not always a popular decision, whether you rebrand the bank or whether you change the building location and modernize it. It's always well, you could have done this instead. Well, you could have done this instead. And that's the challenge of running a public company that's judged on quarterly results when you have a long-term vision. And there's that constant tension to balance the results of the quarter with the long-term goal of where we want to go. We were scattered through 23 different buildings in the city of Toronto. And we decided that we wanted to build a modern workplace, has a 1,000-person auditorium, open spaces, no desks, no offices. Everyone has access to the windows, and democratized everything. Yep. And I think it's been a great first inning, several first innings for CIBC Square. Now we got to continue to modernize our banking centers and making sure that they're continuing to move into the future, making sure that we're modernizing all of our work premises, because part of what we want to do is make sure that people are in the office at the right frequency so that they don't kind of stay only at home and lose sight of the culture. Culture is when wisdom meets aspiration, where leaders can meet younger, aspiring individuals who want to contribute to the future of the bank. And getting that balance right with technology is super important for us.
Yeah, it's really hard. And you had to go through COVID, and you had to go through the fact that people worked from home and still maintain the culture that you were able to do.
Yeah.
So are they all coming back now? What's happening?
Well, I think we have, we have almost 50,000 team members. I always like to remind everyone that almost a third of them have always been at the office. They're in the banking centers. They were there during COVID when there was no plexiglass. They're there all the time. So whenever we talk about what's our workplace strategy, at a bank like ours, it's a lot more complex. Right? We have a lot of folks answering, 50 million calls come in a year, 20 million go live. Many of them do that from the comfort of their home today, but we can manage and understand their productivity and the quality of their discussions through listening and through technology. So getting that balance right is really, really important. Having leaders in and having leaders also nurture the next generation, I think is really critical. We should never lose sight of that, because that's where you're going to get the future leaders being built at our bank, by being there with leaders who understand how to run businesses, who can teach them some of the subtleties that you don't always get through a screen.
And how much more difficult do you think it's going to be for your successor when technology becomes so much more important, when AI becomes increasingly important? Your culture is what's changed people, your ability to talk to them. You remember everybody's name.
Yeah.
You know everybody in the place. You know everybody's kids' names. There's nobody in the world who has a better capability of that than you. What advice would you give in a world filled with technology and change?
Well, I think that Harry and the team have a very good handle on kind of the road ahead. and are embracing the emerging technologies, including, you can't go through a meeting without artificial intelligence and how we use our data to our advantage. But if I look at things historically in terms of how we've evolved as a bank, CIBC has always been at the leading edge of technology. We were the first to put in the Olivetti computers. We were the first to launch telephone banking. We were right up there on mobile banking. And what's happened over time? What's happened over time is clients are now able to use the technologies to do the basic transactions of banking. But when it comes to the more complex need, whether it's you're buying your first house, saving for your kids' education, how to settle an estate plan, how to give money to your children, how to finance your business, all of this technology has allowed our people to spend time with our clients, to give them the advice that they need, because money is all about psychology and emotion as much as it is about hard dollars. So they can do some of the basic things on their own with this technology, but it'll allow us to spend more time with them and to build meaningful relationships.
You're right. So
and that is the differentiating factor for us. Embracing technology to allow us to build deeper relationships at a human level.
That's amazing. What would you tell these young kids from Rotman who are here today about leadership skills, how you define it, what does it mean? What can you teach them about the amazing leadership that you were able to create where you are?
Well, there's a couple of pieces of advice that I give. There's, I think if you aspire to be a leader, you do need to be a good manager. You do need to know how to manage things so it's not chaos. You do need to know how the plan sticks together. You do need to stick to an execution plan. You need to stick to timelines. You need to be disciplined in that regard. If you do want to be a great leader, you need to be able to learn how to communicate, how to connect with people, how to make sure that a message comes across very clearly. You have to be able to listen to them, to understand where maybe your message might be a little bit off. And I'd say really good leaders do both of those really well. They know how to be a leader, and they know how to be a manager. Doing one or the other is not good enough. A good leader can make great speeches and then come back to the office and it's just chaos. A good manager could be doing a great plan and executing it against it, but not inspiring the rest of their people. When the larger an organization gets, the more important it is that you're a really good leader and that you're a really good manager. And above all, my team has heard me say this time and time again, particularly over these last couple of months. As you say, it's my last day. You like to remind me of that, Brent. Caring matters the most. You need to, in business or in any organization, a nonprofit, academic institution, hospital, wherever you are, you need to be competent. You need to have a level of intelligence, a level of collaboration, but you need to really know how to care. Care about the people around you, care about how things get done, care about the people that you're serving, and quite frankly, care about your own personal well-being so you can be that leader that's there when they need you most. And caring, to me, is an attribute that's not talked enough in business, but it matters a lot. And it's not an attribute that lives on its own. It's an attribute that kind of goes hand in hand with being a great leader and being a great manager and being a person that cares.
There's no doubt about that with you. Every one of us who've been exposed to you through our whole careers knows how much you care and how much you care about each of us who have come close to you in our lives. And we never forget it, none of us. But you also care about Canada a ton, and everyone here wants to hear how you feel about our competitiveness in today's world and how we're going to survive under the attacks that we're getting on a daily basis. Some we get back and results in some bad behavior, but most of which are coming from our southern border, and we have to win. We have to win. And the Prime Minister is faced with a lot of choices today, right? And not that much flexibility because he doesn't have a majority government. So what do you think is going to happen, and how are we going to survive over the next few years?
Well, I personally, I think we'll be okay. Although this is kind of a unique situation. We're kind of in this unique crossroads. Although I'd say we've been here before. In history, if you go back in history, we've been challenged. I think first we have to really understand why we exist as a nation and be able to clearly articulate that so 41 million people have a sense of how to describe that. And that, I think, is just table stakes. Over time, we'll get there. That's a longer discussion. But as I said at the outset, if someone said to you, here's a country with all the minerals, energy, and agriculture and timber that you can need to not only be self-sufficient, but to feed many other nations, you'd say, I want to be part of that country. Two is, here's a country where you have one of the most educated populations in the world, where one can argue that it can be better, that academic institutions need to strive for a different kind of outcome, that we need to focus on different skills, but our starting point is a country that I would pick. The third thing is this is a country where people come from all over the world, and they come here and they sign up to be Canadians. And if you talk about global trade and connectivity to other cultures and other parts of the world, this is a country that I'd sign up to. And if you actually benchmark yourself against the 200 plus nations of the world that exist, Canada, if you scored it really honestly, would come out on top. Now, having said that, can it be better? Yes, it can be better. There are issues. I mean, there's let's say the last 10 years have been maybe not our finest hour. Maybe I'm being too kind in saying that. You'll lose a decade, arguably you lose 2 decades. You lose 2 decades, you'll lose a generation. And that is something that is really, really serious. So I'm not going to wade in on what's going to be on November the 4th, because I don't know what's going to be on November the 4th, but I will say there's 2 fundamental areas that we need to focus on in our country to really, really, really get things right. If I were a person today between the ages of 21 and 35, I'm 60 today, and I didn't come from affluence, I'd ask myself, how am I going to make this work? Asset prices have gone way beyond my income level. If you're making $75,000 in the city of Toronto, you can't save for a house. You have no hope in saving for a house. If you look at the federal budgets and the provincial budgets and the city budgets of the world, and actually ask yourself how much of that gets allocated to people in that age range, you'd be shocked at how little is allocated to them. They need hope, and they need the financial incentives to save into the future. If I were to put a policy in place, I'd start applying demographics. We apply it to old age. Why don't you apply it to young age? And why don't you raise the tax threshold for anyone under the age of 35 to $75,000 from $35,000 when they start paying taxes, on the condition that they're saving into a first-time homebuyer's account, or the difference about $10,000, or an RSP, or maybe an RESP. Maybe an RESP exists for life, or a TFSA. Something that's sheltered, but something that forces them to save. So that when it comes time to buy that house, it'll take a decade. Then you put your deposit down, you buy the house. Something that drives incentives and gives them hope. That's what young people need today. And if you look at all the polling, look at the Abacus polling that you're seeing. Old people want X, young people want Y. And young people's concerns aren't being addressed. The second thing we need to do is just add more capital dynamism to create more and small and medium-sized businesses. The nation-building projects are great. We need that. We should have done that a long, long time ago. That's not going to rejuvenate the social fabric of our cities or our suburbs, where capital is desperately needed. Put incentives in place. There are affluent Canadians who would be willing to invest in businesses that are of high risk, that maybe don't make money for the first 5 years, but maybe those losses can flow through their personal income. It's a flow-through share. But instead of applying it to mining, apply it to other industries. We need to do everything possible today, including nation-building projects, to get that thing going. And I can guarantee you, if you get capital dynamism back and you give young people hope, Canada's got a bright future. And that's what needs to be addressed.
Amazing.
So last question, one from the floor, and it's pretty obvious to everyone from your last speech why, last things you spoke, why you're being such an amazing leader. So everyone wants to know what you're going to do next, and everybody also wants to know how we can have a part of it. But in addition to that, they want to know how you built the talent that allowed you to have these two tables of people here who are going to build your organization to the next thing, and how you're able to generate such an easy choice in Harry to be able to have this job.
Well, we've been working together for 15 years, so we get to know each other. We, the collective, there's a couple of CIBC tables here, signed up for our strategy, our purpose, our shared accountability to deliver. We really believe in our clients and how we can serve them better. We really kind of do this formidably like a team. And I think you create the right culture, you create the right talent development, and you get incredible outcomes. As long as you've got the right social fabric within the company, as long as everyone believes in why they do what they do when they roll out of bed every day. And that is what I know Harry and the team will continue to do to build CIBC to the next level, because I think it's probably in the 5th inning of what could be going forward. And I look forward to being a great ambassador, a great alumni. I hope I didn't bore you this afternoon. I really enjoyed being here, other than the hot lights. I can't really see much.
I can't see.
And I hope, like, I shared some messages that maybe will resonate with some of you. Maybe we'll just start a debate on how we can make things better. One thing I will say is don't be an observer in all of this, and do not for 1 minute think that by watching, I don't know, CTV News, The National, Fox, whatever you watch. Sounding like a boomer now because it's all on TV, right? You can watch, you can get your media in other ways, but don't be an observer and assume everything will go right. Try and wade into the game, try and shape the outcomes for our country. I believe, as I said to you earlier, this is an amazing country. I believe it'll continue to be an amazing country, but only if we all weigh in and do something about it. Don't cast stones. Stone casting is an easy sport, right? You cast a stone, and you hope that someone gets injured and the next person will come along. We have to work with the characters that are on the stage today. Let's try and make them be better. And then when the election comes, we can have another election and see who else can run to shape the country going forward.
Well, you made me better because I've never heard you say a negative word about anybody. I've never heard you gossip. I've never heard you criticize. And you always take responsibility yourself for what it is, and you never feel entitled, and you never feel a victim. And you taught me a million lessons that way, and that's why I consider you my friend, and giving me the honor to do this with you today. Everybody, a cheer for this man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brent. Thank you. You're a special man.
Thank you, Victor and Brent, for such an inspiring and reflective discussion. Victor, when you joined us back in 2017, you joked, I haven't been called Mr. Dodig that much in a long time. Everyone just calls me Victor. That's exactly how Canada knows you, as a leader who led with conviction and approachability. On behalf of Canadian Club Toronto, we thank you for your service, your vision, and your belief in Canada's potential. We wish you continued success as you begin your next chapter. And Brent, thank you for moderating with your signature curiosity and insight. Before we close, I invite you to join us for some of our upcoming events. On November 3rd, the Honourable Peter Bethlenfalvy, Ontario's Minister of Finance, joins us. And on November 10th, we're honoured to host Her Worship Olivia Chow, Mayor of Toronto. November 13th, we launch our new series, Canada's Next Move, exploring the bold actions needed to drive Canada's economy forward, which we heard some today. This inaugural luncheon will explore the economic imperatives of our future. A final thank you to our presenting sponsor, PwC Canada, and to our production partner, VBC Live, for today's flawless event. Members and guests, thank you for being a part of this very special afternoon and for helping us celebrate a decade of leadership that truly shaped Canadian banking. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and hopefully you're all excited about Game 3 of the World Series tonight. We've got to be rooting. Thank you. Enjoy your afternoon.